Welcome, everybody, to the Doomtombpodcast. My name is Chris. I am your host. Today, we have band members from Destroyer of Light, based out of Austin, Texas. And I just caught them outside of their show at the Yucca Tap Room in Tempe, Arizona. Apologize for a little of the background noise, but, you know, it happens when you're on location. So, you know, just kind of got to get over it and get past it. It clears up towards later in the podcast. We go track by track over their last release called Chamber of Horrors, and they have a new release out now, like an EP called Hopeless that was released in May of 18. Check that out. You won't be disappointed. We go over so much stuff. We talk a lot about movies, and we start out talking about the band Ratt. If you haven't heard about the band Ratt, go check them out. I'll put a link in the show notes. You probably heard Round and Round. You might not have heard some of the deeper tracks. I'm going to put one on later on. We talk about John Carpenter, White Zombie, and Rob Zombie. We also talk about how important lighting is to a band when they're performing on stage. We talk a little Carl Jung. We talk so many other movies and bands. I got to put as many links in the show notes as possible. Not even sure if I can get to them all. So you know what? I'm just going to shut up right now. I want you to hear this. This was a fantastic interview. Doomtombpodcast@gmail.com if you need to reach us. Thanks for all the 5-star reviews on iTunes. Maybe a review every once in a while. That would be awesome. For right now, though, we're going to get into the interview with Destroyer of Light. We are outside of the Yucca Tap Room, and I am with some members from Destroyer of Light. Gentlemen, how are you?
We're doing okay tonight. We had some equipment issues, but Sorts helped us out. Otherwise, they tell us it was a good show.
Yeah, if everyone says it's a good show from there, it's a good show. We'll take that.
Now, could you gentlemen please introduce yourselves and what you play?
I'm Keegan. I play guitar in Destroyer of Light.
I'm Steve, and I play guitar vocals in Destroyer of Light.
And I have to talk about the elephant in the room, which I see a Ratt hat on. Is Ratt a band you grew up with, or?
Ratt is a band I wouldn't say I grew up with, but it's definitely a band as I've gotten into music I really appreciate and love. I like 80s hair metal quite a bit.
We could have a long discussion about that.
Oh, yeah.
Who else besides Ratt do you find interesting?
I do like the first couple Dokken records. I like some Cinderella.
Like Breaking the Chains, Night Songs.
Yep. Under Lock and Key.
Right.
Tooth and Nail.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
So with Ratt, how far back do you go? Do you go back to the EP?
Oh, yeah.
So tell me, how badass was that first EP? Walking the Dog, you've got Aerosmith cover, you've got Tell the World, you got the original Back for More. I mean, how much more can you ask for?
It's a killer EP. It's no wonder that they got signed after that record. Because as far as the reason why I like Ratt so much is they're a hard rock band.
Right.
They get lumped in the hair metal category, but they're a hard rock band. Same with Cinderella. I think Cinderella is more of a blues band.
Exactly. Cinderella was a blues band that unfortunately had hair that was a little high at the time.
Yeah, so they got lumped in the category.
Yeah. Now, have you heard Tom Kiefer's solo work?
I haven't, but I do love Tom Kiefer's vocal work.
And I know he had some vocal issues a while ago, and now I know that he's back on tour, and I think they did something where he remastered or something that album, and it's been out for a while now, but that is some awesome music.
I'll have to check it out because I haven't checked any of his newer stuff out, but I love his vocals in Cinderella a lot. Very gruff.
Yeah, exactly, and it's that rawness. Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, because your vocal style is very interesting. There's a lot to it, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later. But as far as the differences, because in hearing your last release, I hear such an amazing roller coaster of a ride in regards to your music. And is that a planned thing? Like one, the song ramps up and we come up high and then go down low and it comes back around and it circles around. Is that, I guess my question is, the order of the songs, was that intentional?
Yeah, we planned that record from start to finish, pretty much. We hadn't really done that before. It was always, you write some songs, you have a collection of songs, and then, kind of put them together in a way that flows reasonably well. But with this one, with Chamber of Horrors, we went into it with a mindset of consciously kind of writing songs for the position they'd be in the album. I mean,
Right.
We had an initial couple songs that we were working on, but it was like where you had Buried Alive, it's like, well, that's the end of the album.
Yes.
And yeah, we were also thinking about the format of vinyl records specifically, and how you get 22 minutes aside.
Right.
And the way a lot of older records are, especially, they have that dynamic to them. Like, listen to an old Queen record, there will be whole sections where the songs don't have a clear start or end point.
Right.
But you just listen to 3 tracks, and it was like a whole medley, and they're planning this, to have a sort of a beginning, a middle, and end, a climax on each side of the record.
Right.
And the whole thing being a kind of narrative story. So that was what we were going for.
Awesome. Do you mind if I go right away, track by track? We talk about each track?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Let's start with, where are we here? Oh my gosh, I got so much to talk about here. Let's go into the first track. So we have a little bit of an opener, Whispers in the Threshold. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, we kind of like in a concept way, we wanted the album to start out with it opening into a journey into a dark world and whatever. And
That's so funny you say that. As I'm looking here, I put that it feels like you're about to go into a journey into hell.
yeah, and I mean it's kind of like the concept of you don't know if you're going insane or if it's reality happening. In The Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter, I like that movie, and it's loosely in this realm of you don't know where you're heading, but we wanted to make it sound like you're going into a dark world. And it's just, we thought the album could use an intro type thing, and I just came up with the riff, and
Right.
we just rode with that, and then the whispers came afterwards.
Yeah, well, and then also the sound of the door opening at the beginning.
Yes.
Which, there's like a constant kind of the theme that was on our mind, like Steve was saying, was the idea of like a mental hell kind of.
Right.
The idea that it may not be a physical place, and you may not, start over there. The way that you kind of approach life and reality, your mental state is going to affect like literally what kind of place you're in.
Exactly.
And so the difference between like going to hell in a mythological way or going to hell in a psychological way, I think we're kind of like looking at that line a little bit, that it's a blurrier line than
Right.
you'd really think, or that it's commonly talked about, I guess.
Now, do you incorporate that when you're on stage? Because there's a visual aspect that you're portraying on stage that I really like, because the lights are shut and you have light coming from below. Is that to add to the music?
Yeah, I mean, we're hitting all, we've got the incense as well, and so, at least on 3 senses,
Right.
you get the visual, there's the sound, the auditory, and then the fact that we've been starting off with the organ track that, you played that, right?
Yeah, so to add to the madness because I'm in the horror movies, and you know we have an organ. Susie, my fiance, and I have an organ at the house, and I thought it'd be cool to write a old school horror movie
Sure.
on the organ. So
Well, I see you have the Halloween shirts.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like, let's try to add to the madness, and then the lights, and then the smoke, and then the smell.
Right.
Add a little theatrics, and you know.
And it all puts it together. Yeah, I think it makes for a more sonic performance, honestly. I mean,
Well, and we have James doing lighting for us, who's
Right.
a friend of ours, and it's, you know, you can buy lights that'll sync up to your playing,
yes.
but with him actually working the controller, it's all wireless. All the lights are wireless, so you can pretty much be positioned anywhere and watch us play and actively coordinate a light show, basically, for us.
It's a fantastic addition, I gotta say. It makes it look so much better than just coming out and throwing down some tunes, and it just brings it all together. It really, really does. So let's go into the smoke.
Yeah,
That's
I guess,
you.
that's one I wrote. Well, our writing process, we're pretty open. We all add things to it, but it was the initial riff was one of mine, and it was actually Penny. We were playing at a bar in Texarkana, and it was a smoking bar, and he
Right.
stumbled out kind of, you know, you can still see the smoke coming off of him, basically.
And the smell.
Yeah, it's like into the smoke in there. And I was like, cool song title, and that's how a lot of my songs get, the lyrical content gets made. But it actually ended up being a song, like as I was writing it, about somebody who they're going into a cave or a mine searching for something,
Right.
and they encounter a sort of Lovecraftian monster. It's a sentient cloud of smoke that makes you trip. It's psychedelic, and basically seeps into your whole physical body, and you're just sort of a stone zombie forever.
And that came through in the lyrics as well.
Yeah, and so that was the concept kind of spun off, and it would have been really easy to write when I was kind of like basing it off the title. I was like, I don't want to write a star.
Right,
You
sure,
know.
yeah.
But on the other hand, it's kind of like, you know, it has that element to it that it could be, you know, a metaphor for kind of losing control over psychedelics or any kind of substance.
Yeah, the building off of the instrumental, coming into, now we're going almost like deeper into this madness, whether it's in your mind or wherever it is.
Right, and it's kind of an archetypal story, and I have a lot of dreams like that where I'm going down under the earth into caves, and there's some sort of amorphous sort of monster. I've never had dreams where there's, you know, you see a clear outline of anything. Half the time I don't know it's chasing me, so it was kind of, that was coming out as well, having nightmares.
What do you think that's from?
I don't know, man. I read a lot of Carl Jung, so if we start talking about dreams too much, it could derail this whole thing.
So you're more, is it Jung? You're Jung.
Jung. Yeah.
More Jung than Freud?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Freud, you know, everyone kind of forgets all the things that he came up with, the theories that we just kind of take for granted.
Right.
Like the idea that there is just an unconscious part of your mind that you don't have access to, where there's, you know, maybe instincts or dark places in your psyche that you don't want to acknowledge. You know, just kind of take that for granted now. But he was the guy who came along and said, yeah, you know, we actually should break up the psyche into conscious parts and unconscious parts. And the whole conscious, unconscious thing, I guess, is kind of central to the record in a way.
Really?
That line.
So you were thinking that was
Oh.
like
That was a conscious thought, yeah.
right.
Because, you know, because Carl Jung's always writing about archetypes, and that's how he sees the psyche. And it's the archetypal horror story. You know, the hero's journey. The hero goes off into the unknown. He gets something valuable and comes back. The archetypal horror story is you go off into the unknown and it sucks you down, and no one ever hears from you ever again.
That's so true. And I was in the horror. I've noticed some different things. I guess it's for how can you say, maybe for more effect, where you don't see a lot of kids that are harmed or dogs, and if there is, or animals, or if there is, it's majorly a thing that people just, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe they harmed an animal, or they did this or they did that. I think was that in a Spielberg movie where there was something that happened with one of the kids? I can't remember right now.
I don't know, but you saw The Witch, right?
Oh yeah, I saw The Witch. Yeah.
There's a scene at the beginning of that.
Tell me about it.
Oh yeah.
The baby in like the first 5 minutes.
What happened? I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't? Oh,
No.
it's like, it's not a spoiler because it's like in the
That's
first
okay.
5 minutes.
I'll take it. I
That's
can
the
take a
baby
spoiler
gets-
too.
It just gets brutally murdered.
Really?
Yeah, like they just come right out with it. Like,
Wow.
There's no back and forth. Like, oh, is there a witch? Is there not a witch?
Right.
It just grinds baby up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there goes that theory.
But I mean, that's it's weird, man, because horror nowadays is not necessarily. There are mainstream horror movies, and then that was kind of more of an indie art kind of horror movie, and they
Right.
get away with a lot more. The mainstream stuff has become a lot more tame.
Do you prefer the mainstream, or you prefer the underground?
Oh, I'm definitely.
And how far underground do you go if you do?
We've both probably gone pretty far.
Yeah, pretty decent amount. I mean, but I don't know. I'm big into like the 70s and 80s and some of the early 90s horror movies more than the 2000s and stuff like that.
Are you more into like the slasher stuff, or?
I mean, I love the 80s slasher stuff.
Yeah.
I like all, Friday, 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween. I mean, I even like all the sequels.
Right.
I even like the ones that are terrible. I like bad horror movies. Like I like
Cheesy
a lot of-
almost.
Yeah, cheesy too.
Yeah. And I find that, like, especially with Friday the 13th, basically, if you're drinking, having drugs, or doing drugs, or having sex, you're going to die.
Yeah, Jason's gonna kill you.
Yeah. He's apparently he's straight edge.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, that
But-
makes a lot of sense.
But I mean, even when you go back though to the first Nightmare, before they got ridiculous, I mean, the concept behind the first Friday the 13th with the mom being the killer,
Right.
and then the first Halloween.
Whoa, spoilers.
Yeah, no shit.
Easy.
1980.
Yeah.
And then with the original Halloween, where you don't really get the one thing that every time I rewatch Halloween every October is the fact that you see it through the mask
Yeah.
and you hear his breathing.
Yep.
Like those little nuances make it really creepy.
Now, what'd you think of the difference between the original and when Rob Zombie did his version?
I know a lot of people talk shit about it. I thought the Rob Zombie one was pretty good, but Rob Zombie went into his little shtick that he does in all his movies with the hillbilly swearing and all that stuff.
Right.
I don't think Michael Myers came from that kind of family. He came from a normal middle class family. He just ended up being very crazy.
Yeah.
And I wish he didn't take the hillbilly approach to it, because I mean, in the original, it's just a typical middle class family in Illinois who didn't know that their son was crazy.
Right.
And that's what makes it more creepy than him being raised by a dysfunctional family in that kind of respect.
Sometimes I look at the films that Zombie does, and I think he's taking so much from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, he basically takes Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2
Right.
and makes it into his own. little
Into his
thing.
own, yeah.
But Devil's Rejects, I think that's the best thing he's done.
Better than House of a Thousand Corpses?
I think so. in my
Really?
opinion.
Okay. I'll take it. Did you see, what was the other, was it 31?
I did see 31. That was pretty decent.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 again.
Exactly. So, yeah, all right. So, let's go into the next track, The Virgin, and there was an intro, I guess you could say like a sample. Can you tell me what that was?
That's from a little movie in the public domain called Satan's School for Girls, public domain horror film. from the late 70s.
Right.
And it's not a great plot. It's not a great movie in general, but it's just a film about a girl trying to figure out, her sister gets murdered and she's at this like boarding school, and there's a cult operating in the school, and there's kind of that question throughout the movie as to whether or not the cult leader really is a supernatural evil, or whether he's just a guy who's conned a bunch of people.
Right.
Which I guess comes out in the sample where she's like, can't believe that her friends actually believe this guy is Satan. But yeah, and that was one of your songs, and that one, we actually did that one on the first record. That was, so a redo of that, and getting into the kind of cult stuff. And
with the song before, Into the Smoke, I noticed that I wanted to get into it with that change in vocal, where it's clean, and then we get a little grimy, and then we go back to clean, and the same in the Virgin, the same kind of thing. That it's like, at first I felt that the vocal was really quite atmospheric, and then it turned into what I would consider like just the plain devil himself coming in.
Yeah, there goes my theatrics again. I'm a big King Diamond fan, so that's kind of where I throw my King Diamond touch to things. Okay. Even though I can't sing as good as him, but the thing is like it's seductive in the beginning. It's like people are out searching for these virgins to take them and have sex with Satan. So it's kind of like the voice is supposed to mimic like creepy.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, let's take her in. She's gonna have sex, and we're gonna bring Satan back to life.
And that's exactly the part I'm talking about. Yeah.
And then in the middle, it's like he's finally like come out, and that's where the vocals take a change. And the funny fact is that the female on the track is my fiance. Okay. And in that middle section, I tell her, make it sound like you're having sex with Satan.
I'm gonna set a fire under her ass.
Oh yeah, she's like, let me take a shot of whiskey and then I'll do it. So that's what happened.
I mean, yeah, she was pretty much, just like, okay.
Yeah, like, I'm down.
It's professional. That's how professional
she's a
vocalists
pro.
are.
Yeah, she's a pro.
You throw them a curveball and they're like, all right, yeah.
And it is a little bit sonically different from the original. Why did you feel that you wanted to redo it or change it up, or did you want to brighten it? What was your thought process on it?
We haven't really been happy with the first record. I mean, it was intended to be a demo. Right. We kind of consider it an EP. We haven't really considered it a full-length record because it was only 30 minutes or so. Okay. But, there's Raining Blood is
28 minutes.
28 minutes. Yeah. So it was just kind of the headspace we were in at the time, in just trying to make something shorter, and then we ended up recording way too many songs, and we ended up playing them all way too fast. Yeah. Right. It was a whiskey fueled process.
When it should have been a weed fueled. When it should have been weed induced instead of whiskey induced.
Yeah, and
slow it down.
So, we just got ahead of ourselves and we put it out, and there are still people who come up to us today who really like that record and think it was really cool. And I still listen to it every once in a while, but even the way that we played those songs on the record, they were a lot faster. They were a lot, you could say, chuggier the way we were playing.
Sure, exactly, yeah. So you almost like allowing it to breathe a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a lot more similar to our style now. But even at the time, we moved away from that style that you see there kind of captured on the first record really quickly. Right. And so we also did another one on the split we did with God Hunter.
Yes.
Coffin Hunter.
I was going to get into that in a little bit, yeah.
And so, maybe another one will turn up somewhere down the line, another cut from the first one that we, can redo. But who knows?
Yeah. Go ahead. You were going to say?
I was just going to say, I mean, like playing out live and the tighter we got as a group and as a unit, the songs took this different form that we thought they deserved to get that kind of recognition. Because, I mean, Coffin Hunter became a big song in our set back then, so we wanted to give it a proper recording that it deserves.
Sure.
And then The Virgin being, I wanted to make it more theatrical and make it more like, because it's meant to be like heavy and slow.
Right.
So I wanted to give it that kind of representation.
It's almost, and we're kind of going back, it's almost like Ratt doing the initial Back for More, and then when they did Out of the Cellar, they recorded it again, and it felt bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot more power to it. Mm-hmm. One thing that I wrote down, and I'm not sure if you agree, but as you're telling me this, it sounds like true. I felt like for The Virgin, it was like being dragged into hell and feeling the fury of it.
Yes. I like it. I'll take it.
Okay. Let's go into the next track. Oh my gosh. Procession. What is it? Twilight Procession.
Twilight Procession.
That's me not being able to see.
Yeah, we went into writing this thinking we wanted to have an instrumental. When we play live, we usually have some transitional. I mean, they're kind of jams. They start out as jams, and then it'll coalesce over the course of, say, a tour.
Right.
To where it starts out as something that we're filling time in between songs, and then everyone starts playing the same riffs and starts noticing what everyone else is doing, and by the end we have. And so that one, Twilight Procession, I think we just wrote it. I don't think it was salvaged from a live set, but it was part of the attempt to make that record flow the way our live sets do, because we don't really have any space between the songs, or very little.
Very little, yes. And I've noticed that a lot in this scene, actually. And let me ask you this: is it difficult? Is it more difficult to do that, to keep something as seamless as that, than when somebody just ends a song and they take a minute break or whatever and they regroup and then?
So that's painful to me.
That's painful to you.
Like
okay.
when I don't know. When a band stops playing and then they stop talking, and then you can hear people talking in the audience and they're just tuning. I hate it. And some people are really good at keeping it going. Like some frontmen can tell some good jokes, or they'll have good banter with the audience.
Right.
But we've always kind of gone with the approach of just keep the talking to a minimum on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now it feels easier not to have any space between the songs.
Right. Okay.
Because we basically write a set list like that.
Yeah.
Where
we try to write a set list and plan it to flow seamlessly.
Right.
And I mean, sometimes they'll just take a break so people can hear the name of the band and give a shout out. But yeah, basically we want to keep everything flowing like a conscious.
We're thinking how the songs are going to end, and like, okay, well, ends hard cut, so what are we going to do?
Right.
Like we can't just have it be dead air.
Yeah. You need something to fill the space.
It's like a radio show. Dead air space.
Totally true.
Yeah.
Just like that. Okay, guys. So, in that song, I wrote down. It felt like a kind of a somber, like dirge. It felt like feeling and examining the wounds of the previous track, the Virgin. Is there any truth in that?
Well, I mean, when I look at it, I don't know if the tension when the song came. It's like in a horror movie where, okay, some horrible stuff just happened, and then this little cheesy scene comes in. I mean, it's not a cheesy song, but it's kind of like the sun's coming up again, the day's going to start all over again, everything's going to be great, and then we go into the next song.
Right before the person's head gets cut off, or
yeah, it's like a moment of like reprieve of you think you're safe. I mean, the image I had in mind writing it was why it got called Twilight Procession, was a bunch of hooded figures sort of in a like a funeral procession or something like that.
Right.
And like as the sun goes down, sort of marching off into the forest or something like that. That's kind of always been my approach instrumentally, starting with kind of like an image or something. But it ends up working really well because it's the last track. You kind of summon the devil himself,
right?
And then and it is there's some kind of stuff that's a little uncomfortable on the Virgin, almost, so yeah.
Well, I've also noticed, and I don't know if you see it when you're on stage, if you see the crowd react. I feel like in listening to this album, there's some musical like misdirection, meaning like you're here, but wait a minute, I'm going to take you over here now, and I'm not going to tell you when, I'm not going to tell you how, and it's just going to happen. Do you plan that, or is that just in my head?
I'd say that's planned at this point to some extent.
Okay.
But it part of it is the like you were saying, the feeling a kind of narrative structure to the whole thing. That we try to contain that in each song in a way. Like each song is its own story or its own chapter.
Right.
And so you have to have the twists and turns.
Yes, you do.
And we're writing it like a story, so we're not necessarily trying to like fake you out, but it's more, I get bored if it doesn't, if the song doesn't take a turn that isn't somewhat unexpected.
And I love that. I think that's great. I love to, because you'll hear some tracks like you said earlier, like chugga 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 chugga, and you know exactly what you're gonna get, and then it's done. This is like, you're here, no, I'm over here, no, wait a minute, hey, I'm behind you, and that's what I feel in listening to this album, and I absolutely love it. For Lux Crusher, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay. What can you tell me about that track?
This is.
It feels.
This is your track.
Yeah.
You gotta talk again.
It's. I don't know. Kind of just one of those songs that the lyrics are just a kind of declaration of nihilism.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a big fuck you. But it's also about touring and being on the road in a band.
Right.
The whole like lyrics at the beginning of midnight worship at the shrine and sonic ritual, slowing time, and all that, and about my body getting throttled every night and all that. And the human sacrifice is us basically. It's talking about
right.
The whole fact that you're getting in like a minor car wreck on stage every night. Head banging,
whiplash.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting thing. I was going to ask that later. I might as well ask you now. With the rigors of touring, like, do you have anything that's happening physically or mentally that's either getting to you, or something that you've learned to overcome, or anything that you could add to that?
That's another one for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, the headbanging and like rocking out, it does. You get bruised and like your body hurts a little bit. But
right.
To me, like, I grew up watching Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and all these other bands, just getting into this stuff, and
sure.
Like, that's what I want to do on stage.
Right.
And I'd say I've gotten better. I think because like when in the earlier days, there's a lot more drinking.
Yeah.
And when you drink and do it, it kind of affects it more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't still drink, but it's not. I'm not waking up with hangovers.
Not in excess, yeah.
And that having the hangovers on top of your body hurting just makes you feel worse, and you hate life more.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like I'm at a point where it's like I can handle it. And,
there you go.
I mean, this is my workout too. Like when I'm home, I should exercise more, but this is like. The headbanging's my ab workout,
Right.
Lifting heavier gear is my like arm workout and stuff like that.
That's your
So
resistance
I kinda
training.
I try to look at it as like a exercise thing more than, and putting on a good show for the people.
Right.
And I feel a lot better in the last year and a half.
Good.
That I've done in the past.
Well, after we're done here, I have some things I want to share, because my other business, I have things that I deal with the body, and I'll tell you about that a little bit after. Maybe something that'll help you on tour.
Right on. Appreciate it.
So what can you tell me about Prisoner of Eternity?
So this was a co-collab song because he came to me with the beginning riff and he didn't know where to take it, and so we both worked together to put the song structure together.
Right.
And then I don't know whose idea it was. Probably both of us. We both like the Twilight Zone.
Sure. Oh.
And so.
Okay, I'll ask you after. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the concept of a man that never wanted to turn old, and he gets blessed that from the fountain of youth.
Yes.
And then he sees all the loved ones die and all that, and he wants to take it all back and wishes he just would have died.
That's pretty much exactly what I wrote. I mean, I put it sounded like a spell that kept someone eternally young, and all the issues that go along with it.
Yeah, and there's a couple Twilight Zone episodes about that. I think it was you who initially brought it up.
And then you wrote the lyrics.
The idea, yeah, of how much that would suck. And the fact that, because I think it's the Twilight Zone episode is called Long Live Walter Jameson. There's a scene where he's talking about how he's not invincible, he just doesn't age. And the guy he's talking to says, well, if you want to die so much, why don't you just take your own life? And he says, well, I've got a gun and I stare at it all the time. I just can't do it. So, I mean, that was kind of like on our mind as well, that it's, it's not necessarily they're an easy. Let me start over again.
That's okay.
It was kind of on our mind, the whole idea that people have kind of like a weird relationship with mortality.
Right.
That because we all knew that kid in high school would talk about like, I'm gonna kill myself, and they never did it.
Right.
And, I knew people would make fun of them. But it's like, a lot of people kind of feel that way and go through those depressive periods where I think it was what is that Russian writer's name? War and Peace. Tolstoy.
Tolstoy.
Yeah, he was like, I can't keep a gun in the house. Like, I can't carry a rope with me. I'll hang myself.
Jeez.
Did you dealt with it for years?
Right.
And he basically called himself. He's like, He thought of himself as the worst kind of person who thought that life wasn't worth living, but was too cowardly to take his own life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so again, with Prisoner of Eternity, they're all the songs, they have that element of the horror or the supernatural, but there's, we're trying to kind of deal with real stuff there as well that are in part of the mundane, everyday world.
Now, to go back with what you were saying in regards to the Twilight Zone, have you both checked out Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Great
Now,
show.
I'll admit, I have not seen it yet because I want to be sure I'm in the right frame of mind. Every time I want to watch it, I seem like I'm depressed. So I don't want to watch it and be like, go off the deep end here. But I hear it's amazing.
The first episode is a little weak compared to the rest of the
I've heard
material.
people say, stick it out, it'll get better.
I mean, even the second episode is great. The
Right.
first one, the premise, you got to be in a mood.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. You were going to say?
Yeah, some of them are kind of a really scary look at reality that we live in now.
Is it a lot of, not judgment, but like morality issues?
To some extent.
With technology.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
But, I mean, because the Black Mirror, what that refers to is your phone screen.
Oh, the one I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, but like when it's off, that, because I think they actually do have like a mirror app. It's just,
Yep.
You just look at yourself in your black mirror that you've got there.
Exactly.
So it's also got that, the metaphorical idea though of, kind of looking at your shadow in a way, the shadow of humanity coming out in technology. Oh, it's really cool. It's definitely a great, I recommend that to anybody who likes Twilight Zone. And Night Gallery. A lot of people haven't seen Night Gallery.
Is that on
Plug
Netflix?
for Night Gallery.
I think it's on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on
Hulu. All right. Night Gallery.
Yeah, that's Rod Serling's other show from the 70s.
Oh, all right.
He did another one.
I'll have to check that out.
It's like a darker Twilight Zone.
Actually, I see you have a Goya shirt on. I might have to ask Jeff if he knows of that show because he is a huge fan.
I would believe he would have to know. I'm sure he does.
Yeah. All right. So, what can you tell me about the final track of Buried Alive?
So, as an opening to the album, I kind of wanted to write a really slow, heavy song
Right.
to end it. The concept of the lyric is basically about a religious person who's a bigot who leaves a secret life. They preach the good life and say that they're religious and good, but they have deep, dark secrets that haunt them,
Right.
and they come back to bite them.
Did you feel that as you were writing that this person is stuck in that, like they can't get, like, believe me, I'm not saying that hate is a good thing because I don't think it is, but if the person would just be honest and say, yeah, I'm a bigot, I hate it, but he's trapped in that, or she or whatever is trapped in that cycle and they can't break it and it's mentally affecting them.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you're so blinded by everything else
Right.
going on that your own beliefs take over, and you have this dark secret, but you feel like that you can kind of like shield it with religion.
Well, and a lot
Okay.
of, I would say a lot of those types of personalities, those types of figures probably don't think of themselves like that,
Right.
They're thinking like, oh, I'm doing this because of God's love. But I mean, I remember right around you writing that, I think you brought up there was that preacher who said he would burn himself alive if gay marriage was legalized. He didn't make good on it.
So he's still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that didn't work.
Right.
Right.
But so that was kind of, I think, one of the things that I remembered you bringing up, and then also just the fact of like, that a lot of these people, I think the hypocritical attitude, a lot of hypocrites aren't even conscious of it.
Right. Yeah, they don't even know what they're saying. Well, they're saying something, but they're not sure what the meaning is, or however you want to put it. All right, well, that was all the tracks from that. And now, if you don't mind, I have a few other questions that I want to ask before you get on the road. Where are you guys heading after here?
El Paso, Texas.
And then you had 2 other shows after that, is that right?
Yeah, it's going to be Odessa and then San Antonio.
And then after that, you taking a break, you going out again, you working on material? What's for 2018?
So the rest of 2018, we got a EP coming out on May 11th called Hopeless.
Fantastic.
It's about suicide, depression, and all that good stuff.
all that wonderful stuff. And who's releasing it?
We're just doing it ourselves again, Heavy Friends Records.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna say this question at the end, and I'm gonna ask you a few other questions. At the end, I ask a question from a previous band. Mm-hmm. A previous band is asking a question to ask you. And then I just ask, if you got a question to ask the next band, can you think of it as we go along with these other quick questions? Yeah. What does it take to stay relevant in the music industry or in the genre?
You want me to take this one? Or do you want to?
I don't have any fucking idea.
Yeah, it's that's a very complex question to ask. I think in this day of age is you just gotta play the music that you believe in and what you like to do, and not try to follow anything. Just be yourself and play what you play. And the one thing I will say is you do have to constantly have new material going.
Right.
So continually writing is important, and trying to get new material written and recorded on a regular basis to stay relevant.
Right.
But I think as far as what music you write, you should just stay true to yourself to what you write.
Just go all in. Pick what you like to do and go all in. I mean, if you want to be a serious band, go write music, record it, and practice.
Practice, yes.
Play shows and go on tour. It's not as hard as some people make it out to be.
And with that, I wanted to talk a quick second about your merchandise because I think it's on point, and you had plenty and different price points and etc., which I think is important for the consumer. Who's doing the merchandise illustration?
We have multiple people.
Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I'll give a shout out to Greg Horkey in Grand Rapids, David Paul Seymour in Minneapolis, Adam Burke from Portland. He did the album cover, The Chamber of Horrors.
Perfect.
Greg Horkey did the Time Has Come shirt and the album to Bizarre Tales. Shay Scranton in Austin does the Oracle design that you see all over. He also did the logo
Right.
that you see all over the place.
So these people, we can find them. I know David Paul Seymour. I've heard, and some of the other names. But can you find them on social media?
Yep.
They're all on social media. Okay, so I'm gonna have to put some links in the show notes for that. What is it about Texas that produces great stoner doom rock bands?
ZZ Top.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hot, and yeah, it slows you down.
Is there anything that's related to the barbecue or sweet tea?
Those
Barbecue.
Those things slow you down.
Yeah.
Everything you said slows you down.
Right.
The meat sweats,
Yeah.
Oh, they're awful.
but it's so good when you're eating it.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. There's something about living in a place where you look at however many consecutive days you have over 100 degrees.
Right.
And just eating barbecue and smoking weed. And that just makes you play some stoner riffs.
Stayed low, played low. What are some van essentials that every band needs to have on a tour?
Snacks, lots of snacks.
Right?
Probably a bottle of a liquor of choice.
Sure.
Just to have around.
Sure.
Water.
Oh, for sure. And then we have a gas burner and a French press, so we can boil water and make coffee.
Do you have a coffee of choice?
I like Farah, which I don't know. That's an Austin blend.
Sure.
Penny likes the jet fuel.
Jet fuel.
Yeah, I forget what that company
Independence Brewing in Austin.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, and I like Ruta Maya coffee too. Their
Yeah.
medium roast is really good.
And in the past, we've rolled with a bag of coffee. Had our rice cooker. We've been cooking rice in a record store before the show. We've brought like the cutting board, and you really don't need all that though. You can cook for yourself if you want, but honestly, the best tip I would say is like, don't be afraid to hit up the grocery store. Don't eat at the gas station all the time. Pull in some money, just go shopping, get some community food for the van.
Sure. There's always a Walmart around.
Yeah, that's the thing. Go to Walmart, get some cheap
Swallow
food.
your pride.
Swallow your pride and just go to Walmart and get real cheap food, and then you'll stock it up, and you'll have snacks for a week. So when you get hungry, you can pull out a bag of almonds or a bag of berries, and at least
And have at it.
Yeah.
What are some of the best places that you've eaten on tour?
Man,
it's a tough one. We did. So our friend Morgan works at this.
that place was great.
It's a ping pong bar, but they serve Asian cuisine.
Okay.
Well, it was called Aces, right?
Aces, yes.
Well, but what did it used to be called that or something? Because I saw that sign up.
Yeah, I think Aces is what it's always been called.
Oh, okay.
And where is this located?
Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. Okay.
It's not a bar typically you'd see any of us walk into, but since he worked there and he hooked us up.
Right.
Dude, and there's no beer pong allowed, so there's nobody doing that.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
It's just in the name.
Just regular. Well, there's regular ping pong tables.
Oh, there is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can play ping pong.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, the food was great. I mean, Asian style. Also, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what. I guess it was just Asian fusion.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, probably
Yeah,
an
just
Asian
Asian
fusion. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the night market chicken that I got, man, that seemed like Singapore style. A lot of different stuff you don't really see.
Yeah, it's very unique, but it's very good. That's probably the best food we've had on tour. Other than that, it's been Walmart food and
On this tour.
gas
yeah.
stations.
And gas stations and Loves and
Yeah, Loves and Pilots. And
Pilots,
TAs,
yeah.
7-Elevens.
What is the most difficult songs to play live and why?
We should have Penny answer that question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, our drummer is always getting on us about, keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
Live, Buried Alive is tough because it's long and it has a lot of parts.
Right.
We got a good amount of songs like that, but a lot of the songs that were really hard on us, we've kind of left them behind. Prisoner of Eternity gets a little bit, that song gets going at the end, and it's kind of like a train that's going off the rails, and
Sure.
you got to be on top of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of our really annoying compositions are from the first, or from the second and third, probably, I would say, and we don't really play them anymore.
Okay, well, there you go. What was the most difficult song in your career to create, and which was the easiest?
Man, what was the most difficult? Was it Battlefield Girth? Was that the most difficult one?
Probably was.
I love that track.
Yeah.
No, it's a great song, and it's fun to play live. We haven't done it in ages, but yeah, I remember the writing of that song. There's a lot of arguments going on.
Uh-huh.
Right. Well, there were a lot of ways that we could have played a lot of those riffs, and then also the initial way that I wrote some of the riffs was actually more fucked up than it ended up being. To where Penny was like, "No, why are you doing that?"
Right.
Yeah, like the whole ending riff, it was like we're playing pretty straight on the cut that we did, but the way it was initially written was this kind of like, I think it was in like 5/4 or something, and he was like, "No, I'm not gonna do that.
Not gonna do it."
And it sounds way better because of that.
So, when coming up with the band name, what were some of the names that were rejected, and what was the worst one?
Well, actually, so when I moved from Michigan to Austin, I'd already had the band name in mind.
Oh, okay.
I was moving in my Buick Century 2004 Buick Century, packed to the gills to Austin, and I thought that was a killer name for a band.
Right.
And I basically put an ad on Craigslist, found Penny, and then he introduced Keegan into the band, and I was kind of like, this is the name of the band.
Boom.
Hopefully you guys like it, and it did, so.
Perfect. Is there any obscure music that you'd like to turn fans onto, or any current music that think deserves maybe more attention?
Well, Halatar.
Oh yeah, Hellacopters. They're like a death, doom, melodic. They have a lot of elements in it that make them really unique and cool.
Right. Where are they based out of?
Finland, I think Finland.
Okay.
Yeah, there's them. Who else? I've been listening to Red Scalp a lot recently. They're from Poland. There's a band called Pilar that I threw on earlier today. The van, when we were driving through the mountains, and it was incredibly intense fog, and I couldn't tell how steep the grade was driving with this trailer. I knew there was cars in front of me, but I couldn't see them. And we had some Pilar is really creepy shit.
Yeah.
It actually worked really well.
Yeah, it was really cool. That's why I mention it. But drone, they're kind of like what Ghost looks like in their whole gimmick of like we're an evil version of the satanic Catholic Church stage. That's what Pilar sounds like.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea what they look like, but it actually sounds like a weird black mass.
Is it Pilar?
Pylar.
Okay. Another thing for the show notes there.
Yeah.
And I mean, what else have we been listening to? Any local bands we want to plug? Or friends of ours?
I mean, obviously, I could start just listening.
Yeah, we could just go.
Bands.
We could go forever.
Yeah, but I'm sure you play a lot, while driving.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of music and a lot of different varieties of music.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Oh yeah, man.
Because you can draw from other genres.
Hellacopters, more people should know.
Oh,
about them.
Hellacopters, yeah. Well, they're playing at Psycho Las Vegas, so finally they're getting their dues. Their
Finally.
dues are being paid.
Gosh, and I've heard them for what, past dozen years or so.
Oh yeah, man! Like I saw them in 2005 on the. Oh man, I'm blanking right now. It's the one after High Visibility. By the Grace of God, I saw them on that tour.
Right.
They were fucking awesome.
All right, so they'll finally get their due, a little psycho action.
Yeah.
What do you do to pass the time while driving to your next gig?
Listen to music. That too. Yeah.
A lot of us read, write. I have a sketchbook. I'm on Reddit. I have beef with people on the internet. Fuck you. I'll argue with you on the internet.
Right.
I have no shame about it.
Okay.
I look at my emails and do our social media stuff, and I'm always booking something.
Well, because you book for other bands as well.
Yeah, I do Heavy Friends booking. I book for other bands.
All right, and that's based out of
Austin, Texas.
Out of Austin, Texas. When are there any? Is there anything you play on your phone? Like any games?
I had a baseball game for a while that I used on a
Yeah.
tour that was really awesome, but it took all my data space away,
Sure.
so I had to take it off.
Gotta get rid of that.
That was a fun game to play.
Okay, if you could pick the brain of one successful artist regarding business and music, who would it be?
Man, I guess I'd like to talk to Jucifer, just because they seem to have just been doing it mostly themselves forever.
Right.
King Buzzo from the Melvins as well. I mean, again, another band that's been touring forever. And they know their shit. Who else? And Kanye West.
Oh, of course. Well,
Yeah.
we need to have Kanye in there.
Yeah.
And now that the energy's out there, maybe, who knows, maybe you'll find them online and start arguing together.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, maybe he'll convince me to vote for Trump.
You never, ever know.
You never know.
Now, what would be the perfect package tour? Of course, including your band. Who would you add? And
man.
I'll say you get 4, including you.
Well, I wish In Solitude didn't break up, because they'd be one of them.
Okay?
Can it be any band, living or dead?
I don't care.
Or-
Go ahead.
So he'd say Fleetwood Mac.
well, not for Destroyer of Light.
Is that just
just-
is that just because you got something for Stevie Nicks, or?
I mean,
Well, maybe McFleetwood. I don't know. No judgment.
Well, there is a subtle Stevie Nicks reference in our next EP, but no. I mean, I'm not going to say that's not part of it.
Right.
I do love their music, and I like pre Nicks Buckingham Fleetwood Mac too. So I get it.
They were great songwriters.
Yeah, before like both the guitar players went insane.
Yeah.
For Destroyer of Light, I would say Electric Wizard.
Yeah, they would be a good match.
Okay, so it's Electric Wizard, Destroyer of Light, Fleetwood Mac, and Kanye West?
Kanye West.
Okay.
Justin Bieber.
And Justin Bieber. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the early stuff or the more current? I mean,
Yeah, I like his more adolescent style music.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? I mean, all the stuff you found when he was just a young man on
Yep,
YouTube.
he was just a young kid looking for a dream.
That's it?
Still my beating cock.
Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah, you just went there.
Okay. In what ways do you think your music has progressed over the years?
We've definitely found our niche and what we're good at doing. Especially, you could see it progressing from the EP or the split we did in Innsville, that we were heading in a direction that was more conscious.
Right.
And then Chamber of Horrors solidified that. But we're even still evolving. Like the EP is a little different from Chamber of Horrors too.
Right.
And the new album that we've already been working on is different from that, but it still sounds like us.
Yeah, it's we brought more 80s influences in, and when I say 80s, I mean kind of like almost more like new wave type stuff.
Are you you mean like the Cars or something? Or?
We both are really into like The Cure and Tears for Fears.
Oh,
and
okay,
stuff like
okay,
that.
yeah.
And Depeche Mode, stuff, those types of bands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really. We're not bringing any electronics or synths into it.
It's very subtle. Like
Right.
you'd have to have us be like, this is the part where thinking
Yeah.
Tears for Fears.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not like an actual rip off or anything. Like
You're
that.
not going to do a cover of Head Over Heels. Or,
Oh, I would totally do one now.
Yeah.
I would.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing that I think a lot of people don't. I mean, if you're not like a musician, compositionally, I'll see similarities between things that have nothing in common in terms of arrangement.
Right.
Not played on the same kind of instruments at all. That I can pick out and be like, oh, it's kind of the same. They're doing kind of the same thing there. And there's like a certain kind of style of vocal melody that they had, the new wave guys that, and there's, you mentioned In Solitude earlier, there's an album called Sister by In Solitude, which was the first record I heard that was metal that like conjured up kind of those, there's certain riffs on that record where I'm like, it sounds like an 80s sort of new wave band.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's distorted. It's got the heavy metal, the dual guitar harmonies. But the first track on that record almost sounds like the beginning of Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah,
it's
it
got-
has that guitar tone in it.
Yeah, the acoustic part. So, and there's been a couple of bands like that. And like I said, we were saying I'm into Fleetwood Mac. I really like Heart.
what a voice on her. Jeez.
Oh,
Yeah.
Still amazing.
Yeah, they did that great rendition of Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was incredible.
It's insane. They made Led Zeppelin cry.
Did
They were tearing up, like in the audience, like this is so good. Like,
Well, Ann and Nancy Wilson, man, just like, they're just phenomenal.
Yeah, they're badasses.
Yeah.
They're badass women.
yeah. But so the direction we're going in, we're playing with a lot of melody,
Right?
and we're kind of. It seems like we've been pushing the more heavy low end and more of a conscious attention to melody on the high end.
Perfect.
Sitting on top of it.
Now, gentlemen, of course I want to say thank you very much for staying out here. It's got to be, I don't know, somewhere around 2:30 something in the morning. And I appreciate you staying with me and allowing me to ask a few questions. And do you have a question that you want to ask the next band?
They're usually pretty good at coming up with something. You go for it.
Would you like me to give you a little rundown of some of the questions that have been asked previously?
Just ask them what. Let's see here. Star Trek or Star Wars,
Star Trek or Star Wars?
and
Okay.
explain why.
Yeah, you need an explanation.
And if they don't like either one of them,
Right?
I'd like you to kind of tear into them a little bit.
Like, are you talking, do you want me to do a guillotine choke or rear naked choke, a Darce choke? I mean, I can do a few.
Yeah, I meant more.
And I could
just
smother
like-
him. I got enough
I
weight.
meant more just to kind of grill them extra hard.
All right, I'll do that. And here's your question. It's going to be two because I forgot a few times to ask the questions. So I got two questions for you. They're fairly quick. The first question is, do you believe in domination through amplification?
Yes.
Most definitely.
Okay. And the second question is, what is the maximum amount of strings that should be on a guitar?
6. Well, 12. But it's not a range. Like, you can have 6 or you can have 12.
Right.
That's my position.
Yeah, I mean, 12-string guitar is a beautiful instrument. So yeah, nothing to exceed that 12-string mark, and nothing. Yeah, 6.
My
Yeah.
13-string guitar.
Oh man.
Have you seen that I don't know who did that. I've seen it on social media where there's like, I don't even know how many strings are on that
It's
guitar.
like 24 strings or something.
Or have you seen the War guitar?
No.
You know the band like Behold the Octopus, or like Dysrhythmia? Look up, it's WARR.
Right.
It's a bass and a guitar, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
And it's meant to be like just all on the fretboard. You're just doing hammer-ons.
Interesting. There was a guy I saw, gosh, I got to go back to like 93, and he was in New York City, and his name, I just know him from Rob. I still have the CD. It was called Rob on Bass. He played a treble bass, and it was all that, you know, a lot of slapping and hammer-ons and stuff. And I was just like, it sounded incredible just in the street.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you can see you can go watch videos of people doing like a walking bass line on a wah guitar, and then while playing a lead
right
on top of it. And it's a level of proficiency I can't imagine. So I guess it's okay. You can have that.
Okay.
It's not really a guitar anymore. I'll call it a different instrument.
Okay, cool. So guys, yes?
It's called a wank instrument.
A wank instrument? And why is that?
Because it's for wanking.
Just for wanking.
Wanking.
Guys, I want to thank you so much for your time. I sincerely appreciate it. I can't wait for the EP to come out. I wish you safe travels, and I will talk to you soon. Next time you come around. I want to thank everybody from Destroyer Light for taking their time. I know they were on tour. I sincerely appreciate all the time. They were very gracious with it. During the podcast, I talked about this guy, Rob on bass. And, you know, he was like a New York street musician. I heard about him in the early 90s. I was back in that time, I was into bodybuilding and powerlifting. And I was at this show called The Night of Champions, and it was on a break. So I went strolling around in New York City, and I came across this guy that was performing the street show, and his name was Rob. And he was playing this thing called a treble bass. I believe it was a Santucci treble bass. He also played on a Washburn 6-string bass, and I figured, why not throw a track of his on here? This is called Up Front. The members from Destroyer of Light suggested I put this track on from their last release called Chamber of Horrors. This is The Virgin.
Malleus Maleficarum, the hammer of witches. Some call him Satan.
I welcome what man rejects. I beckon what man despises. I forgive what man will not.
You don't believe that, but he's Satan. None of you can really believe that.
They believe what they must. Tonight they will sacrifice their mortal souls.
Now, what podcast would not be complete if we didn't hear some old school Ratt and roll? That's right, the band Ratt. I know a lot of people are, they know about the song Round and Round, or maybe, I don't know, Lay It Down, You're in Love, what have you. This was from their EP. This is a song that I immediately fell in love with them. This is Tell the World. As always, I want to thank everybody for sticking around towards the end. Doomtombpodcast at gmail.com. Follow us on social media at Doomtombpodcast. Next podcast will be Lithopedian. I'm not even going to describe them. Wait till next week. Hear the interview. Make up your mind for yourselves. Figure it out. Follow them on Bandcamp, on Facebook, all social media. See what you think. Until next week, keep going to the shows. Enjoy yourselves. Buy some band merch every once in a while. And don't forget to stay heavy.